Okay, so we're diving headfirst into this comedy and cancel culture debate.
Mhm.
Like, where's the line?
Yeah, it's a bit of a minefield, really, isn't it?
It is, and we've got articles and think pieces coming out of our ears,
Oh,
so
yeah.
we're going to try and cut through all the noise and figure out what actually matters
I think so. I think so, yeah.
when it comes to free speech and,
Yeah.
not being a jerk, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it's this. The core tension really is free speech versus accountability, isn't it?
Absolutely. A
And
tricky one.
and people have very strong feelings on both sides.
Absolutely.
And it's not a simple either, is it?
No, it's not at all.
It's very, very nuanced.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
we've got one article here that argues very strongly that comedians should be held responsible for what they say,
Mhm.
particularly if it's reinforcing harmful stereotypes.
Right.
And then, you got other people saying, no, comedy's got to be, it's about pushing boundaries. And if you start
Yeah.
censoring comedians, then where does it end?
Exactly. And this is this comes up time and time again, doesn't it? It's the kind of classic free speech argument. And so often people will say, oh, I believe in free speech, and it's that but, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where it gets interesting because nobody believes in absolutely unfettered free speech, do they?
No.
I mean, you can't just shout fire in a crowded theater, as we all know.
Right.
But with comedy, it gets especially tricky because, the comedian is trying to be funny,
Right.
and they are playing with ideas.
Of course.
That doesn't necessarily mean they endorse those ideas.
Of course.
But sometimes those ideas can be harmful,
Yeah.
and we have to kind of unpack that, really, don't we?
We do. And one of the things I thought was really interesting that came up was the fact that we are responsible for the impact of our words, even if we don't intend to cause harm.
Yeah, this is a really crucial point, isn't it? The whole intent versus impact debate.
Yeah.
Because you could have a comedian who says, well, look, I'm not a homophobic, I'm not transphobic, or I'm not racist, but the impact of the words can still be really profound.
Absolutely.
That's what we have to grapple with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly difficult for comedians because, as you say, they're playing with words. They're dealing with satire, they're dealing with irony.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's very difficult to pin down exactly what the intent was.
Absolutely.
But we're left with the very tangible impact that those words have.
Yes. And we've seen so many different instances of this, haven't we?
Oh, we've seen a whole raft of different cases,
Recently.
haven't we, over the last few years?
Exactly. And I wonder if we can look at a few specific examples,
Yeah, let's do that, yeah.
like Dave Chappelle, for example.
Yeah, classic case, isn't it?
He's someone who's been in the eye of this storm for, a long time now.
Absolutely, and his Netflix specials really ignited the whole debate again, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
I mean, they
Right.
really threw fuel on the flames, and
Yeah.
and I think the reason for that was because he was so unapologetic in a way, wasn't he? He was sort of saying, "Look, I'm going to say what I want to say," and
Yeah, and he was very much doubling down.
doubling down. Exactly. If
Yeah.
anything, and for some people that was incredibly refreshing.
Right.
They thought, good on him. He's not going to be cowed by, the woke mob or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
But for others, it was deeply offensive, and they felt that he was punching down.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things that comes up, isn't it? Is the whole punching up versus punching down debate.
Yes, absolutely crucial, isn't
Which is
it?
a whole other thing to unpack.
Yeah, I mean, where do you draw the line?
Well, exactly.
And I think that's one of the problems with this whole debate is people are coming at it from very, very different perspectives. And, if you are someone who has been the target of, prejudice and discrimination your whole life,
Yeah.
then you are going to be much more sensitive to those kinds of jokes than someone who's never experienced that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the real challenges, isn't it, is trying to find a kind of common ground
Absolutely.
where people can at least understand where each other are coming from,
Yeah.
even if they don't agree.
And then you've got,
Yeah.
like the Kevin Hart situation where past tweets resurfaced and he stepped down from hosting the Oscars.
Yes.
And that's another, that's a whole other kettle of fish, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because it raises the question of,
Right.
how long are we going to hold people accountable for things that they said in the past?
Exactly. And how much have they grown?
And can people change? Can people learn from their mistakes?
Right.
I'm sure we've all said and done things in the past that we're not proud of.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, are we going to be judged forever on those?
Ooh,
Yeah.
it's difficult, isn't it?
Or are we allowed to evolve and grow as people?
Yeah, and it's tricky because you've also got the whole kind of
Yeah.
the permanence of the internet,
Oh, God, yes.
where, you might have said something, 10, 15, 20 years ago,
When you were a kid.
thinking it was hilarious, and
Uh,
it comes back to haunt you.
yeah, and the context is completely lost, isn't it?
That's correct.
And so you're judged on a soundbite or a tweet taken out of context
Yes,
from years ago.
absolutely.
And it's very difficult, I think, to be fair to people in those situations.
And then we've got the likes of Sarah Silverman, who's, had to grapple with her past as well,
Yeah.
with that blackface sketch.
I mean, this is a very different case, isn't it? Because I think with Sarah Silverman, there was a sense that she had acknowledged her past mistakes, and she'd actually sort of grown and evolved as a comedian.
And being very open about it.
And very open about it, yes.
And apologetic.
And she seemed to have, really understood the harm that she had caused. And so there was a sense that, she was on a journey.
Right.
And that she had learned from her mistakes. And I think people are. I think people are more forgiving
Right.
when they see that.
Yeah.
When they see that genuine remorse.
Yes.
And a willingness to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, isn't it?
And then there's Trevor Noah,
Yeah.
who also faced criticism, but he addressed it head on and continued on.
Yeah, and this is interesting, isn't it? Because it seems like every comedian is having to kind of find their own way through this minefield, and there's no right answer, is there?
And they're having very different results as well.
Exactly.
Some are managing to navigate it seemingly successfully.
Yeah.
Others are not.
Yeah.
And I think it's making all of us question what the boundaries of comedy even are anymore.
Right. And this is the big question, isn't it? I mean, if comedy is all about pushing boundaries, how do we determine where those boundaries are and who gets to decide?
Well, exactly. And I think that's something that all of us have to kind of think about, as we enjoy comedy and
as we consume comedy.
Yes, as we consume comedy and as we, take part in these conversations.
Absolutely.
I think the important thing is that we are aware of these issues and that we're talking about them and that we're trying to find ways to, to be funny and to be entertaining without causing harm.
I think so, yeah. And to be respectful,
Yes.
I mean, I think respect is at the heart of it all, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If we can approach each other with a bit more respect and understanding, then maybe we can find a way through this.
I hope so.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today.
A pleasure, as always.
I hope you found it interesting and thought-provoking. And please do let us know what you think about this whole debate,
Yeah.
Where do you think the line is? What did you think about cancel culture? We would love to hear from you, so get in touch with us. And until next time, happy listening.